Chicks, and I am here to do a book review over Passing Strange by Daniel Waters. This is the third book in the Passing Strange series. As far as I know, it's the final book. It was published June 1st of 2010 by Disney Hyperion. There are 386 pages in the US paperback edition of this book, and I rate this an average. It's a C on my grading scale. Now, I do want to stop you right here. If you have not read the first two books in the series, do not watch this review because you will be spoiled. I will put a link to my review of the second book up here. So if you want to check out the second book, you can go up there. I, for some reason, never did a video review of the first book, but I'll put a link to my written review in the underbar so you guys can check it out. The first book in this series is Generation Dead. The second is Kiss of Life, and then the third is Passing Strange. So do not read or watch this review if you haven't read Kiss of Life and Generation Dead, because you will be spoiled. Karen Dasan has spent her whole life pretending to be a person that she's not. So naturally, Karen spends her death the same way, pretending to be alive. But her new undercover life is taken to a whole new level. A series of crimes and murders are being committed and blamed on the undead. And when Karen finds out who framed them, she tricks him into falling for her to find hard evidence of the truth. If she succeeds, all of her friends can come out of hiding. But if she fails, the consequences will be worse than death. Okay, so let's talk about the plot of this book. One big difference between this book and the last two books was the perspective. It switches from Phoebe's perspective to Karen's perspective, which Karen is a zombie. And in a way, this kind of hinders the series, but it also kind of helps the series at the same time. It helps because it's really fun to see a zombie's perspective of everything, and I don't know how they could have told the story from any other way. I don't know how Phoebe could have, tricked Ellie. I don't know how Phoebe could have done what Karen's doing. So, I see why it was done, but I miss Phoebe a lot. Phoebe was my favorite character from the first two books. She was the one I related to the most, so it was kind of sad to not see her in this series as much, or in this book as much. But Karen was a close second. She was my second favorite character, so, it was a good switch, but it kind of hindered it and it kind of helped. This book and this series, I'm going to have to say, overall was pretty much mediocre. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't something I fell completely in love with, but it wasn't something that was awful to read. It wasn't something that I couldn't stand to get through. It was just mediocre. It was average. I loved the idea of the book and the story and all of it. I loved the idea that the plot was good, but it was lacking something that gave it that extra oomph that I think all the series need. And so, it was just average. There was nothing special, nothing crazy, nothing awful. One thing I didn't like about this book was, since I'm pretty sure it's the final book in the series, I didn't really get a wrapped up feeling at the end. It kind of just felt like the story was over, or this book was over, and there was still more to happen. There was going to be another book. But it didn't leave you on a cliffhanger or anything, but it didn't get wrapped up enough for me, for my tastes, so that was kind of dumb. Okay, so let's talk about the characters. Like I said, I really miss Phoebe. She was my absolute favorite, and she was only in it a couple times in this book, and it made me really sad. Now, if you watched my Kiss of Life review, then you know that there was hardly any recap from Generation Dead, and I read Generation Dead so long ago that I forgot some of the characters, and even in Passing Strange, that still affected the story to me. I don't really know what the recap was like in Passing Strange from Kiss of Life, because I read them right after the other, because after the Kiss of Life debacle, I had to just get it done, had to read it, because I didn't want to forget, and even more since Daniel Waters didn't put in enough recap of Kiss of Life. Not even knowing the full role of the characters in Generation Dead really hindered the series. I wish that there was more recap. I wish it was easier to remember, because not knowing the full role of the characters really messed it up for me, because characters are the biggest part of a story to me. If there's no character development, then I can't like a series, and since I don't remember where they started, it was really hard for the characters to develop. You know what I mean? That's really all I have to say about this book and this series. It's not amazing. If you haven't read some of the 4 or 5-star books that we've recommended, then don't even bother with this series. But if you have, and you're just looking for something to read, you're looking just to get a good, different story, something that's not going to blow you away, then this might be for you. I'm Jessica with Chapter Chicks. This is my review over Passing Strange by Daniel Waters, and this chapter was